Hey, welcome to Taylor's Trick Taking Table. I'm Trick, and we've been trying to get a little bit safer on the channel. We've been doing fire safety training. We're learning to separate the fire games from the match games. That's actually been your job. No, you did what? You put them together? Oh God, they're on fire. Do you have any water? No, not that. Oh my God. Do you know how close this was to fuse? I mean, I know we're on fire, but we could have really blown up there. Well, we're really gonna be needing to do more fire training, which I guess is good because today we are covering Pompiers. It's a game about firefighting, a game by Shiro Yamaoka. And the hook to Pompiers is players are trying to complete missions. So it's kind of like Vashtikt, which we covered in the past. And players are completing these missions, but these missions are interesting because the tricks are related to each other. So maybe a mission is win 3 tricks in a row, or win the first and the 6th trick. It's a really cool concept. Let's go to the table and I'll show you how to play. The deck in Pompiers is made up of cards 1 through 15 in 4 different suits. The 3 wizard cards, 13, 14, and 15, are removed if you're playing with only 4 players. Here we have the game mostly set up for 4 players. So each player will have 5 of these tokens that thematically are supposed to be floors and rooms in a building, but what they are is the 10 tricks that each player will play. Because each player will have 10 of the cards, and then the rest of the cards are put over here, and that's what's going to determine what trump is. So first, a dealer is picked at random. Let's say it's Squirtle. They'll flip after shuffling the 8 leftover cards, the top one over, and that color will be trump for this round. So red will be trump. In addition to that, they'll take these tiles, these light green tiles, they'll shuffle these, and what these tokens are things like maybe trying to win the 7th trick, or the 9th trick, or maybe you try to win the most blue cards, or maybe even just exactly 1 trick. So these will be shuffled, and one at random will be placed underneath this middle section here. The rest of these light green tokens are shuffled and put into a stack, and they're put off to the side there. So what these 5 tokens mean is you can see they're the same symbols as each player has. So the 1 over 6 is also the 1 over 6 here. So what happens is this says the last trick. So this is a mission where if a person or a player wins the last trick, they can flip over their corresponding token. Because on the backside of each of these players' tokens is 5 victory points. So over the course of the game, players will try to fulfill these missions. These 4 will remain the same, but this one will always be different. So it's always going to be a new light green mission. So the missions that will always be out are winning the last trick, winning no tricks at all, winning whatever the light green is. In this case, it's most red cards. This is winning vertical tricks, so winning maybe the 3 and the 8, or the 1 and the 6. And then finally here, this is winning 3 tricks in a row. What's tricky about this is all of these missions, except for this mission where you take no tricks, only 1 player can achieve it per hand. So let's say Squirtle took the 4th and the 9th trick, but then Hot Tamales over here took the 5th and the 10th trick, and they both completed this vertical tricks mission. Only one of them will be able to flip that and get 5 points. And that's determined on a few different tie-breaking things, which I'll go into a little bit later. But for now, let's get into the trick taking. So the dealer is the lead player for the first round. And maybe they want the most red cards. So they lead with 12 red. So Pompiers is a must-follow game. So looking at Fireplace's hand, they have to play this 3. And then coming to Charmeleon, they can choose the 7 or the 8. They just play the 7. And then finally, Hot Tamales comes over. They can play the 6, 9, or 10. Maybe they play the 6. And so, since red is trump, but Squirrel played the highest trump color, they'll collect this trick. And this trick will go in the first trick location on their row here. So what's interesting is maybe they're going for the most red cards, but also if they win the 2nd and the 3rd trick, they could be going for this 5-10 at the same time. So maybe Squirtle really wants to win the second trick, and then they look out and they lead their 12 yellow. Jumping ahead here, that 12 yellow was enough for Squirtle to win, and maybe they lead again with this 12 blue. Coming to Fireplace here, they play a 6 blue. Charmeleon has to follow suit if they can, so they play an 8 blue. And then Hot Tamales here also has to follow suit with a 2 blue. So now that Squirtle has 3 tricks, they will be possibly grabbing this. Jumping to the end here, you can see that all the 10 tricks have gone out. And a cool thing about this game is you can see who took which tricks when. So as you can see, the last trick went to Squirtle here. And that's important because now, after all the tricks have gone out, you evaluate who's done the mission and you give them points by flipping their token if they have completed the respective mission. So you go sequentially down. So you'll start with the first one and you'll go one at a time down the line. So the first one is who took the last trick. So since Squirtle took the last trick, they get to flip over the corresponding 1/6 token. So they got 5 points. Then you look who took no tricks. So it looks like everyone took a trick. If Hot Tamale hadn't won the 8th trick, they would be able to flip over their 2/7 token. Then you would just skip that if no one has. Then you look at the specific light green tile for 3/8. So it's who has the most red cards. So I already counted it, and Squirtle won the most. If it's a tie, no one would get this green token. But since Squirtle won it, they'll take the corresponding chip, and they'll just take it and put it face down. And that's points for them, because the green tiles all have different amount of points. So this one has 3. Then you look at the 4/9 section, vertical tricks. So it looks like it looks like both Campfire and Squirtle have 1 vertical tricks. So if there's a tie on a dark green mission, you check to see if a certain player hasn't flipped over enough tokens as the other tied player. So as you can see here, Campfire hasn't flipped over any tokens, but Squirtle already has. So the tie would go to Campfire, and they can flip their 4/9 token. If both the players had already flipped 1 apiece, then neither of them would flip their 4/9, and it would stay black side up. Then finally here, we look at the 5/10, and it's 3 in a row, and the only person to do that was Squirtle. So they will flip their 5/10. So right now, Squirtle has 10 plus the 3, 13 points. And I want to point out, ties on the no tricks, both players would get it. So if Charmeleon over there didn't win 6 and 7, and Hot Tamale didn't win 8, they would both be able to flip their 2 and 7 token. So now, the new dealer for the next round is decided, and it's whoever took the last card. So it would be Squirtle. After the first round, the second, third, fourth, and fifth rounds actually do something a little bit different with the emergency missions and with Trump. So if this was at the end of the first round and a player won this token, they would get this token. But on the start of the second round, the dealer will actually deal out 2 of these emergency missions, and players can win either of them or both. The 5th mission, you'll take all the rest of the ones that weren't revealed, and then any that weren't achieved, you would add them as well. And all of these can be achieved by the players in the final round. Then they'll get all the cards, even these, shuffle them up, deal them back out, and players will play a total of 5 rounds. In the first round, you would have a pile of cards that you would shuffle and reveal, and that would be Trump. But in the later rounds, if there is exactly one person who didn't take any tricks, they'll actually look at this pile and they'll pick what Trump will be. If everyone took a trick, or if there's multiple people who didn't take a trick, then it's just shuffled as normal. After those 5 rounds, whoever has the most points wins. If it's a tie, it goes down to whoever completed the most basic missions. If that's a tie, then it's whoever has the most emergency missions. If that's a tie, they share the victory. The variant way to determine Trump is the dealer would actually deal out 11 instead of 10 cards, and then each player will pick one that they want to be Trump, and then of those 4 cards, it's shuffled, and then that card out of one of those 4 would be Trump. It's a really interesting way to give players a little bit more agency when determining Trump, and it's actually my preferred way to play. At the end here, I'll just show you maybe a few of the emergency missions. So you have exactly 1, 2, or 3 tricks, the 7th, 3rd, and the 9th trick. Then you have the colors, so it's most of blue, yellow, or red, or maybe it's no of a certain color, so no red, no black, or no yellow. And then finally, these last two are a little weird, but what they mean is R is the round number. So maybe if it was in the third round, what it means is it's the R trick, so the third trick, or if it was the third round, 3 plus 5, the 8th trick. So whoever wins that specific trick. So it's kind of like the 7th trick, but it's just dependent on the round. And that is Pompiers. It is a really, really fun game. I think the comparison to Was sticht is pretty good, actually. They're super comparable in a lot of different ways. And I think fans of that will like this. I don't know if it's 100% one-to-one, though, because Was sticht has a ton of agency. You draft your hand, your entire hand. You draft what missions you want to take at the start. And in this one, there's a lot more shared missions, and your hand is random. So I don't know if players who like Was sticht like it because of the missions and what you're going for, or because there's so much agency in it. So I don't know if it is like 100% one-to-one overlap, but I think that trying to get a mission feeling is in both games, and it's both super fun. And a quick note about the graphic design and the art, so lovely. I think all the firefighters have a nice comic aspect to them. They're kind of a little goofy and a little cartoony. Almost reminds me of Cuphead or something with with like this art style, you know, kind of like 40s or 50s or something like that. And then the tokens, when they're split out, the feeling of winning tricks and having them position, it all looks great on the table, like the iconography and like the actual mission tokens. So I think the production itself is really whimsical, really brings you in. I don't know if it makes you feel like a firefighter per se. I don't know how strong the theme is, but it looks great on the table. And the open information of who took which tricks when is fascinating. So since everyone has the same missions, roughly, right, you always have a different emergency mission, but because there's always the vertical trick or the 3 in a row or the no tricks, about halfway through a hand you can look around and see what people are going for. Or if someone takes 2 tricks in a row, you can kind of tell they really want that third one. So it's a really interesting push and pull because your hand could be not the best, but if you just happen to win 1 or 2 tricks at the right moments, you'll fulfill a mission and you'll get 5 points. So it's a really interesting way to mitigate having like a good hand or bad hand by having you have a good hand or bad hand at the right moment, just a good or bad card almost. I'm always interested in really fun ways that Trump is implemented, and this game has a great one. The fact that in the variant, I'm specifying, because in the non-variant you just shuffle and it's just random and it's like not the most interesting. But in the variant way to determine Trump, players get 11 cards, you pick one, and then those go into a pile, you shuffle, and one gets revealed. A really fun way for players to have a good amount of agency in what Trump could be. I think the fact that emergency missions are always different does give this a good amount of replayability and a good amount of feel. It can get a little similar just because the missions 4 of the 5 stay the same, but you kind of have to have that, right? Because players need to be going for common goals. There's a lot of interaction and a lot of seeing if someone's going for a certain goal that you are because you don't want to tie them, or if they are going to win a goal that you're going for and they have more tokens flipped than you kind of don't care, right? Because you're going to win that tiebreaker. So it's a lot of looking out on the table, and the fact that all the information's there, it's really nice. I think just the openness of information is super helpful to the players to know what they need to go for at any certain moment. So that is Pompiers, and I really, really like this game. If you liked Was sticht for the mission fulfillment, but maybe thought it was a little long and the drafting was a little bit too much, you'll love this. It's very streamlined, very quick, and you get that mission fulfillment. You kind of scratch that itch with this game. It has maybe less agency than Was sticht for sure, and I think at times if you're just kind of looking out for the same things because the missions are always the same, you might feel it has maybe less variability in play than Was sticht. But overall, it's super, super fun to play, and if you ever get a chance, you should totally check it out. But thanks for watching.